Cyropedia, Book 3, Section 3, and we're starting at verse 34. Trianda Tessera. Early on the following day, Cyrus crowned himself with a garland and prepared to sacrifice and sent word to the rest of the peers to attend the service with chaplets on their heads. And when the sacrifices were concluded, Cyrus called them together and said, "Men, the gods announce, as the soothsayers say, and also as I interpret it, that there is to be a battle. Through the omens of the sacrifice, they grant us victory and promise us no loss. Now, I should be ashamed indeed to suggest to you how you ought to conduct yourself at such a time, for I know that you understand what you have to do, that you have practiced it and have been continually hearing of it just as I have, so that you might properly even teach others. But if you happen not to have had this other matter called to your attention, listen. Trianda Tessera, Tida Isterea pro, Kyros men esta phenomenos ethia. Paringula the ketis alis omotimis estephanomenis prosta ira parina. Epida telos iconithisia syncalessus avtus elexen. Andres, even thei, os tamandis faci, keami sindoki, machin te essista prosangelusi, kenikin didosi, ke soterion ip iski nunda antis ieris. Egothe imin men, orenon, pius tinas cri ina, entotiother con askinimin on. Either garimas tafta epistomenus, ke meletikotas, ke arcuendus dia telus iaperego, osta carnalus icotos, andida skita, the me tincanata, catane noicotas accusata. "36. Those whom we recently took as our comrades, and whom we are trying to make like ourselves. These men we must remind of the conditions on which we have been maintained by Cyaxares, what we have been in training for, why we have invited them to join us, and what it is in which they said they would gladly be our rivals. And remind them also that this day will prove what each one is worth. For when people are late in learning anything, it is not surprising that some of them actually need a monitor, and we may be content if they manage, even with the help of a suggestion, to prove themselves valiant. And in this doing, you will at the same time be getting a proof of yourselves also. For he who, on such an occasion, can make others more valiant would naturally also gain the consciousness that he himself is thoroughly valiant of a man. He, on the other hand, who keeps all to himself the admonition to such conduct and rests satisfied with that might properly consider himself but half valiant. The reason why I do not speak to them, but bid you do so, is that so they may try to please you, for you are in touch with them, each in his own division. And remember this, that if in their eyes you prove yourself courageous, you will teach not only your comrades, but also many others, not by precept merely, but by example, to be courageous. Us gar ne osti simachus te echomen, ke pyromatha imin aftis omius pigin, tutus de imas, the ipo mimniskin, is te estrophomatha, ipo kiexaru, a te iskumen, a te tus parakeklisa, parakeklikamen, on te asmani ande gonista epheson imin asasa, ke tuto thav tus ipo mimniscato, oti either imera dixi onescatosastin axios, on gar on opsimathin anthropy gegnunde, u then thaumaston itines afton ke u ipo mimniscundon, ipomimniscundos theido, al agapiton ke ex ipovolis dinendo andres agatheina, ke tafta mendi protondes ama ke imin afton piran ellipsista omen gar the nomenos ento tioda ke alus beltius pien ikotos on idi ke afto sini the teleos agathos anir on o the teen two-tone epomnisin aftos monos echon ke tut agapon ikotos on emiteli of tone nomizi tutu thanike ukago efi of chislego alimas kilevo legin ina ke ereskinimin pironda emisgar ke plesiazate of tisekestos toi of to mary ev the pistis os in tharundas tutis imas if tus epi the ita ke tutus ke alus polus ulogo alergo tharin didaxita. 40. In concluding, he told them to go with their chaplets on and take luncheon. And when they had poured the libation to go, still wearing the chaplet, to their post. And when they had gone away, he called them in to the officers of the rear guard and gave them the following instructions. Telosipen apiondos ariston este phenomenus que spondas pistomenus ikin istas taxis aftis Stephanis. Epi the apilthon ophthis tus uragus prosacalasa ke tutis tiada anatelito. I will read English and then go back and forth to Greek. So what I'm reading in English and then Greek is the same thing. 42. This is Cyropedia, Book 3, Section 3, verse 42. I'm sorry, 41 first. Men of Persia, you also have now taken to you your places among the peers, and you have been selected for your positions because you are considered in every way equal to the bravest, and by virtue of your years, even more discreet than they. And so you occupy a place not at all less honorable than that of our front rank men. For as you are behind, you can observe those who are valiant, and by exhorting them, make them still more valiant. And if anyone should be inclined to hang back, and you should see it, you would not permit it. And because of your years, and because of the weight of your armor, it is more to your advantage than to any others that we should be victorious. And if those in front call to you and bid you follow, obey them, and see that you be not outdone by them, even in this respect, but give them a counter cheer and lead on faster against the enemy. Now go and get your luncheon, and then go to your chaplets on your heads with the others to your posts. Andres Perse, emis, ke ton omotimon, gegonete, ke epilelegmeni este, docitata men alla tis kratistis, Omiina, ti the Ilikia, ke phronimoteri, ke tinin koran ekata uthen eton endimon, ton protostaton, emiscar opistan ondas, tus tagathus on alphorondas, ke epicalevondas of tis etikritus pieta, ke tis malakizito, ke tu ton orondes, uk on epitrepia pita afto, sim feri the imin, e per to, ke alo, ke nikan, ke diatini likion, ke diato varvos tis stolas, in the aura imas, ke iem prosen anakalundas epista paragiusin, e pacuata of tis, ke opos mid entuto of tone, eti thesista, andi parakelevomeni of tis, thaton igista epitus polemius, ke apiondas F aristicendas, ke emis iketa sintisalis estephanomeni istas taxis. "43. Thus Cyrus and his men were occupied, and the Assyrians, when they had lunched, came out boldly and bravely and drew up lines. And the king in person rode along in his chariot and marshaled the lines and exhorted them as follows. So, just a side note here, my guess is when it says the king of Assyria, we're probably talking about Belshazzar, the same Belshazzar as in Daniel chapter 5. That's what it seems, anyways. So it could also be his dad. So I'm not exactly sure if it's Belshazzar or his dad. Saranda tree. Emen the fikiron in two tison, either Assyria ke the Iristikotes existan tethraseos ke paratatonda eromenos paretata ke the aftos o Vasilevs f armatos paralavnon ke tiada parakaleveto. Men of Assyria, now is the time for you to be brave men, for the struggle now impeding is one for your lives, for the land in which you are born, for the homes in which you were bred, for your wives and children, and all the blessings you enjoy. For if you are victorious, you will have possession of all that as before. But if you are defeated, be well assured that you will surrender it to the enemy. Therefore, as you desire victory, stand and fight. For it would be folly for men who desire to win a battle to turn their backs and offer to the enemy the side of their body that is without eyes or hands or weapons. And anyone who wishes to live would be a fool if he tried to run away, when he knows that it is the victors who save their lives, while those who try to run away are more likely to meet their death than those who stand their ground. And if anyone desires wealth, he also is a fool if he stumbles and submits to defeat. For who does not know that the victors not only save what is theirs, but take the property of the vanquished, while the vanquished throw both themselves and all they have away. Saranda Tessera. Andras Assyrii. Nin the Andras Agathusina. Ningari per psychon tonimeteron agon ke hypergis en afita ke ikon en tis enis etrafita. Ke hyperginekon te ke technon ke peripondon on pepafsagathon. Nikisandas men gar apondon tuton emis osper prosten kyriesta. Ida etithi sisa ev ista odi paradosa tetaf de ponda tis polemiis. Ata unikis erondas menondas makasta. Moron guard to kratin vulo manus ta tifla to somatos ke a opla ke achira tafta anandia tatin tis polemias fevgondas moros the ke etis zine vulomini etis zine vulomenos fevgin epichirii Ethos oti imenikondas sozonda. Either favgondas apothniskusin malon ton menondon. Moros de ke etis kri maton epithemon eton prothieta. Tis gar uk even oti imenikondas ta te afton sozusi. Ke ta ton itomenon pros lamvanusin. Either itomni alma aftus te ke taef ton panda apovalusin. 46. Then the Assyrian was occupied, and Cyaxares sent to Cyrus to say that now was the time to advance upon the enemy. For, said he, although those outside the fortifications are as yet but few, they will become many while we are advancing. Let us therefore not wait until their numbers are more than our own, but let us go while yet we think we could defeat them easily. Saranda exit. Omen the Assyrios and Tutisin, Odexioxaris, Pambon proston Kiron Elian, Oti Ethi Kerosi, Agin epitus polemius, Igarnin epi, eti oligi sin, e exo tu rematos, and o on prosiomen, poli essenda. Mi un anaminomen, eos on plius imon gegnode. Al iomen eos eti iometha, epitos anapton kratisa. 47. But Cyaxares, Cyrus answered, if it is not more than half of them that are defeated, you may rest assured that they will say that we attacked only a few because we were afraid of their main body, and they will maintain that they have not been defeated. The result will be that you will find another battle necessary, and then they may perhaps plan better than they have now in delivering themselves so completely to our disposal that we fight as many or as few of them as we please. Sorandepta. O the av Kyros Epicrinato. O Xixari. Imi iper imisi. Of tone asunda. Itithendes. Ev isti oti imas men irusi. Fovumenos toplithos tis oligis epikirisa. Av tithe u nomiusi itis the al alis si machis theisi. Aniaminon on isos vulavsedo inin vavulevunda. Signomi vavulevnda. Parthondes eftos imin ti miavista osta podsis on vulomatha of ton makasta. 48. The messengers received this answer and were gone, and at this juncture Chrysandas the Persian and certain other peers came up with some deserters. And Cyrus, as a matter of course, asked the deserters what was going on among the enemy. And they said that the troops were already coming out under arms, and that the king was out in person marshaling them and addressing them with many earnest words of exhortation as they came out in succession. So they said, those reported who heard him. Sarandopto. Imen the Angli taft acusandas okondo, and tuto the ike crisandas opersis, ke alitines ton omotimon, aftomolus agondos. Ke o kiros osperikos eroto, tus aftomolus ta ek ton polemion, either legon oti exi en te idi sintis oplis ke paratati of tos of Vasilevs exo on ke parakelevito e men the tisa exo usi polata ke iskira os ephesin legin tus acuondas. 49. How would it do, Cyrus? Chrysandas said. Chrysandas then asked, for you to get your men together too, while yet you may and exhort them, and see if you also might make your soldiers better men. Saranda and Ya. Anthony o Chrysandas ipe tithe efi o kira EKC syncolasus els eti existi parakelevseto eara TKC aminus piesus tus stratiotos. 50. Do not let the exhortations of the Assyrian trouble you in the least, Chrysandas, Cyrus said. Cyrus answered, for no speech of admonition can be so fine that it will at all at once make those who hear it good men, if they are not already good. It would surely not make archers good if they had not previously practiced in shooting. Neither could it make lancers good, nor horsemen. but it cannot even make men able to endure bodily labor unless they have been trained to it before. Peninda. O the Kyros Epen. O Chrysanda. Mi then se lipundon e tu asiriu para kelevsis. Udamira estin uto kali paranesis etis tus miondas agathus av themerona cusandos. Agathus piisi. Uk on un tuxotus ge imi ampersen tuto me letikotas ian. Udhamin akon di stas, udhamin ipas. Al udhamin ta ge somata ikanus ponin in mi prosthen isikotas osi. 51. But Cyrus, answered Chrysandus, it is really enough if you make their souls better with your words of exhortation. Peninda Enna. Keo Chrysandus ipen, al archi ti okira, in tas psychosopton aminodus parakalosamenos piesis. Do you really think, returned Cyrus, that one word spoken could at all fill with a sense of honor the souls of those who hear, or keep them from actions that would be wrong, and convince them that for the sake of praise they must undergo every toil and every danger? Could it impress the idea indelibly upon their minds that it is better to die in battle than to save one's life by running away? And he continued, if such settlements are to be imprinted on men's hearts and to be abiding, is it not necessary in the first place that laws be already in existence such that by them a life of freedom and honor shall be provided for the good? But that upon the bad shall be imposed a life of humiliation and misery, which would not be worth living? And then again, I think there must be an addition to the laws, teachers and officers, to show them the right way, to teach them and to accustom them to do as they are taught, until it becomes a part of their nature to consider the good and honorable men as really the most happy, and to look upon the bad and the disreputable as the most wretched of all people. For such ought to be the feelings of those who are going to show the victory of training over fear in the presence of the enemy. But if, when soldiers are about to go armed to battle, when many forget even the lessons oft learned of old, if then anyone of an oratorical flourish can then there make men warfare like, it would be the easiest thing under heaven both to learn and to teach the greatest virtue in the world. For even in the case of those whom we have kept entrained among ourselves, I for my part should not trust even them to be steadfast if I did not see you also before me, who will be an example to them of what they ought to be, and who will be able to prompt them if they forget anything. But I should be surprised, Chrysandus, if a word well spoken would help those wholly untrained in excellence to the attainment of manly worth, any more than a song well sung would help those untrained in music to high attainments in music. Ike Venaton, Aphiokiros. E logos rethes, Themeron, Eus men amplistatasticas tonacuondo. E apoton escron colisa, protrepsa the os cri epenu men anicatafta men ponon. Ponda the kinonda, Ipothiesta lavine the and tes gnomes, veveos tuto os erito teronisti, macomenus apotheniskin malon efevgondas sosista, ar uk efi, e melusin tiafta the ania angraphista anthro Pis ke amoni assista proton men homus e parxa the tiutos the on tis men agathis and endimus ke eleftherios ovios paraskevastisita tis the kakis ta pinos te ke alginos ke aviotos o aeon ep anakisata epita the scalus ima the ke arconus epi tutis genesta e tines the susi te orthos ke the daxusi ke ethiusi tafta thron est an agenita of tis tus men agathus ke ev kleis ev demonestatus to on dinomizin. Tus the cacus tus the cacus ke the scleis athleotatus apondon igista utogar the tethina tus melandus tu apoton polemion fovu tin mathisin cretona parexita pionda tessera either t iondon is machin sin oplis ke opoli keton poleon mathimaton existanda en tuto dinisita tis aporapso visas paracrima andras polemicus pisa pandonon raston e ke mathin ke vidax teen magistin ton anthropis aratin panin dependa epi agoga efi uth on tutis epistavon ammonis essesta us nin ecandas par imin of tis iscumen imi ke mas eoron parondas e ke paradigmata of tis essesta us ius cri ina ke ipavalin the niceta signomi the nicesta inti epilan thanonda tus the apithev tus pandapasin aratis thavmasime on efi o crisanda eti pleonon o felicia logos kolos rethis is andragathia e tus apathevtus musikis asma kalus asten is musikin. I'm just going to check out the chat real quick. It looks like somebody says Augustine be like, and I don't understand that. If you're still watching, would you clarify what you mean? What do you mean? Augustine be like. Johannes Hus. Okay, I don't know. Johannes Hus says Augustine be like. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. He was a Latin writer, and so he would not have been writing in Greek. As far as reading in Greek, I'm not sure off the top of my head at this point, but I don't know what the reference to Augustine is. So if you're there in the comments, let me know. Thank you. Okay. Where I left off. 56. Thus they conversed, and again Cyaxares sent to Cyrus to say that he was making a serious mistake to delay, he was making a serious mistake to delay instead of leading as soon as possible against the enemy. And then Cyrus answered the messenger, saying, very well, but I want him to know that there are not yet as many of us. I want him to know that there are not yet as many of them outside the breastworks as we ought to have, and let him this in the presence of all. And tell him this in the presence of all. Nevertheless, since he thinks best, I will lead on at once. Penindaxi. Imentafta dialegundo, odex ixaris Pauline Pampon elegant, oti ex amartani diatrivon, ke uk agon os takiste epitus polemius, ke o kyros apocrinoto, di tota tis angelis, al evmen isto efi oti uto isin exo osus di, ke tafta apangelita avto and opposine, almost the epiakino doki oxoidi. 57. When he had said this, he prayed to the gods and led out the army. And as soon as he began to advance, he led on at a double quick pace, and they followed in good order, for they understood marching in line and had practiced it. Moreover, they followed courageously, because they were in eager rivalry with one another, and because their bodies were in thorough training, and because the front rank men were all officers. And they followed gladly because they were intelligent men, for they had become convinced by long instruction that the easiest and safest way was to meet the enemy hand to hand, especially if that enemy were made up of bowmen, spearmen, and cavalry. Penindapta, taftipon ke pros examenos tis theis exige to stratoma. Osta irxito agin idi thoughton igito. Ida ipondo evtaktos men diato epistasta te ke memeletikena intoxi parevista eromenos de diato philonikos ekin pros allelus ke diato ta somata ek peponista ke diato pandas arcondas tus prostatu sina I those that diato phronimos ekin episondo gar ke ek polu utos memathikasan Asphalestaton ina keraston to almosa iena tis palamis alos te ke tuxotes ke acondistes ke epepsi. 58. While they were still out of range, Cyrus passed the watchword, Zeus, our helper and our guide. Eos the eti exo velon isan par I gia okiros synthema zevs simakos ke I gemon. And when the watchword came back and was delivered again to him, Cyrus himself began the usual paean, and they all devoutly joined with a loud voice in singing for the performance of such service. The God-fearing have less fear of men. Epi the Pauline Ike to synthema anda po didomenon exircan of tosokiros peana ton nomizomenon I the theosevos pandas sin pichisan megali tifoni ento tiuto gardi I the si demonas eton tusenthropus fovunda. 59. And when the paean was ended, the peers marched on cheerfully, well disciplined, looking toward one another, calling by name to comrades beside them and behind them, and often saying, "On, friends! On, brave fellows!" Thus they encouraged one another to the charge. And those behind, hearing them, in their turn, cheered the front line to lead them on bravely. So Cyrus's army was filled with enthusiasm, ambition, strength, courage, exhortation, self-control, obedience. And this, I think, is the most formidable thing an enemy has to face. Epi the o pean engeneto, ama porofomeni I motimi fe 3 pe the many ke poro rondas is alilus onomazondas parastates epistates legendus polito agatandros phili agatandros agathi paracolun alilus epista ila opisen of tona cusandus andi parakilov ondo tis protis igista eramenos in the mestone to stratoma to kiro prothemias philotimias romis tarsus parakel smu Sophrosinis, Pithus, Operima, the notaton tis, Ep and Undies. Section 60. And when the main body of the Persians began to get close, those are the Assyrians who dismounted from their chariots and fought in front of their army, remounted their chariots. And gradually drew back to their own main body, while the bowmen, spearmen, and slingers let fly their missiles long before they could reach the enemy. Ton the Assyrion, imenopoton ormaton pro Macundus, o sangis, the pros mingi to persikon plethos aneve non te pita ormata ke epixigon prosto eavton plethos. Ida toxota ke agoniste ke sven tho nite avton fiasan ta veli poli prin ex igniste. 61. And when the Persians, charging on, set foot upon the missiles that had been discharged, Cyrus shouted, "Bravest of men, now let each press on and distinguish himself and pass the word to the others to come on faster." And they passed it on, and under the impulse of their enthusiasm, courage, and eagerness to close with the enemy, some broke into a run, and the whole phalanx also followed at a run. Os de epiondas hyperse pevisan ton afimendon velon ethexato diokiros andros aristi idi thaton tis ion epi diknito efton ke parangiato Emen the paradidosan Ipo the prothemias, ke menus, ke tu spevdin, simixa, dromu tines, irkson, sinephipato, the ke passa e phalanx, dromo. 62. And even Cyrus himself, forgetting to proceed at a walk, led them on at a run, and shouted as he ran, "Who will follow? Who is brave? Who will be the first to lay low this man?" And those who heard him shouted with the same words, and the cry passed through all the ranks as he had started it. "Who will follow? Who is brave?" Keaftos theokiros, epilethomenos, tu vadin, dromo, igito, ke ama, epthegato, tis apsita, tis agathos, tis protos, andros, kata, vali, either acusandus, tav, to, tuto, epthegundo, ke diapandon, the, osper, Paragia utos achori. Tis apita, tis apsita, tis agathos. 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 In such spirit, the Persians rushed to the encounter, and the enemy could not longer stand their ground, but turned and fled back into their entrenchments. And the Persians, on their part, following them up to the gates, mowed many of them down as they were pushing and shoving one another. And upon some who fell into the ditches, they leaped down and slew them, both men and horses. For some of the chariots were forced into flight to plunge into ditches. And when the Median cavalry saw this, they also charged upon the enemy cavalry, but the latter gave way like the rest. Then followed a pursuit of horses and men and slaughter of bulls. Xinde exi, signomi, exinde tria. Emen the perse utos exondos, homosa efferondo, egemin polemi, ucetia vinado meni, Allah stra fendes, effevgon isto erima. Either av perse kata te tas isodus, ephapomeni, othumenon, avton polus katus ronison, tus theis tas tafrus, and piptonas, epispithondas, ephonephone, andres amu keipus, enya gar ton armaton istas tafrus, inacasta fevgonda embassine, ke eton midon the epis orondas, tafta ilivnon, is tus ipeos tus ton polemion, either and Nanklinon, gav T and the V, Keipon, the Ogmos in Carandron, Kephonon, the Omphotero. 66. And those of the Assyrians inside the fort who stood upon the rampart of the breastworks neither had the presence of mind to shoot arrows or hurl spears at the enemy who were mowing down their ranks, nor had they the strength to do so because of the awful spectacle and their own panic fear. And presently discovering that some of the Persians had cut their way through to the gates of the embankment, they turned away even from the inner part of the breastworks. And the women of the Assyrians and their allies, seeing the men in flight, even inside the camp, raised a cry and ran panic-stricken, both those who had children and young women as well, while they rent their garments, tore their cheeks, and begged all whom they met not to run away and leave them, but to defend both them and their children and themselves as well. I see somebody in the chat, but I'm not really sure what. Oh, few? Is that what you're trying to say? Few? Yeah. Thank you for whoever's in the chat. We're going to be almost finished. I have a paragraph left there, and I'm going to read it in Greek, and then we'll finish off probably the next 10 minutes. So if you're with me, thank you. And here we go. Exinde exi. Either endos to erematos, ton Assyrion, estikotos, epitis kephalis, tis taphus, toxavin men e akondizin, is tus katakeondos ute ephronun ute adinodo, the na or oromata ke diaton fovo. Tagade ke katamathondas, ton person tinas, dia ke photos, prostas isodus tu erematos, trapondo ke apoton kephalon ton endon. Idus the eginekas, ton Assyrion ke ton simakon, idi figin, ke entostrato pedon anekragon, ke atheon ek plegmena, amen ke techna, exusa, either ke neotora, kata rignimene, te peplus ke viri tominit, ke iketevusa, pandas, oto, anticanian, mi fevgin, kata lipondas, avtas, al amina, ke technis, ke aftis, svisin aftis. 68. Then even the kings themselves, with their most trusty followers, took their stand at the gates, mounted upon the ramparts, and both fought in person and encouraged the rest to fight. Exinde octo, enthedi KFT Vasilis, sintis pistotatis, standes epitasi sodus, K anavandas, epitas kevalas, KFT, emacunda, KFTs, signomi, KTs alis, parakelevando. 69. But when Cyrus realized what was going on, he feared lest his men, even if they did force their way in, might be worsted by superior numbers. For his own men were but few, so he gave orders to retreat, still facing the foe, until they were out of range. Exinda and Ya. Os the egno kiros ta gignomena. Thesis me ke I viasendo iso oligi ondes I popolon so svalien ti par I gisen epi po the nankin exo alone ke pieces the 70. Then one might have seen the ideal discipline of the peers, for they themselves obeyed at once, and at once passed the word to the rest. And when they were out of range, they halted in their regular positions, for they knew, much more accurately than a chorus, each the spot where he should stand. Evdominda, entha the egno tis an tus omotimus, pepe the manus osti. Tachimen garaf ti epitheto, tachida tis alis, paringalon, os the exo valon, agenando, estisan kata horos, polymalon, koru, akrivos, idotes, opu edi, ekistone of tone, genesta. And that is the end of book 3 of Cyropedia. We finished. That was a long book, and the goal is to move on to book 4 at another time in the future, and we will read on book by book until we get to the end of Cyrus's work. So we will read book 4, then book 5, and then 6, 7, and 8. And so we will be reading all of Xenophon Cyropedia, 3 books down, 5 to go. So that was the end of the book. And just to recap the battle cry, that was the most exciting part of this whole thing. Tis epsita, tis agathos. Who will follow? Who is brave? Tis epsita, tis agathos. And let that be the battle cry that we actually remember. Tis epsita, tis agathos.